Hey, what up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about your dark side. And I'm Chris Roscoe, and this is Operation Moksha. So we're talking about this today because I was scrolling the book of Faces, and I saw somebody posted this thing about they asked the question: is it okay to have a dark side? And I'm sitting over here like, what makes you think you have any choice? What makes you think you have any say in the matter? Like, you have a dark side whether or not it's okay to have one. And so I wanted to post this because I don't think a lot of people share that same idea, and I don't think a lot of people understand the dark side or how it functions or how to positively relate to it or anything like that. And it's like the main focus of all my work, and I don't think I've ever directly addressed it. So here we go. So in the question, is it okay to have a dark side? Like I said, to me it's silly because you have one whether you like it or not. And a real easy way for me to prove this is, let's think about this. Like, have you ever had a time in your life, I want you to think back to a time in your life where you had a conflict with yourself. You're like, here's the right thing to do, and then here's this like other thing I want to do, which is like either hide from the truth or just outright lie or be sneaky or do something to potentially hurt somebody or be vindictive or blah, 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 or whatever the shitty thing you could have done, whatever that was. Where did that desire come from? Where did that idea come from? Like, if you don't have a dark side, if you're all light and positivity and bubbles and sunshine and rainbows, then where the fuck did that other impulse come from? From your dark side. So the question is, what do you do with it? If you have one, whether you like it or not, what do you do with it? Now, you could do what most people do, which is one of two things, which is either ignore the damn thing or act like you don't have it. Like willfully ignore it, or just ignore it so well that it's like you fooled yourself into thinking you don't have it. Like, those are pretty much the two things that most people do. And it's important to know that people do these things generally out of kindness, like also largely out of fear, but largely out of kindness, right? Because we don't want to give in to our darker impulses. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to be selfish. We don't want to be, weak. We don't want to be terrible human beings. And so we fight against this darkness inside of ourselves all the time. And essentially, that's a good thing. Like, if we didn't fight against the darkness, like, what the fuck would happen to our world? But the only problem with that is because of the way that our emotions actually function, that getting into a mental and emotional conflict with ourselves doesn't resolve things. Like, it may have a situation turn out better momentarily, but in the long term, it can be fucking catastrophic. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what I mean. So, your dark side, right? It's all those shitty impulses. But they're part of you, and they exist for a reason, right? Because no part of you is actually bad. There's just parts of us we don't know what to do with yet, and so sometimes they speak in ways that don't make sense. I want to give you an example of what I mean. So let's imagine that you're having a real shitty day. You just got bad things happening to you left and right. You're not having a good time. Nobody's listening to you, blah, 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 blah. It's just bad. Maybe somebody in your life died. Maybe you had a breakup or a heartbreak, or maybe just things are actually terrible. Maybe you got diagnosed with some disease. Like, who the fuck knows? Like, imagine just a bad series of days. And you only have one person you can talk to about it. And that person, that when you go to talk to them, all they have to say is like, oh, why are you bringing this negativity? Like, why are you saying all this weird shit to me? Don't say all this weird shit to me. This is dumb and stupid and pointless and useless, and I don't even like you. You should go back in your deep, dark hole. Like, as extreme as an example of that is, that's what we do to ourselves all the time. So just like imagine that some part of you is trying to take care of you, right? Because any part of you that wants to do some like selfish, terrible thing, likely you just want to not feel pain. Or maybe you don't want other people to feel pain, which is admirable. And sometimes telling the truth, sometimes being honest will cause you pain. Sometimes telling the truth and being honest will cause other people pain, and that's okay. And wanting to avoid those things is natural and often, heroic in some instances. But the problem is that it just creates more pain later on down the road, and we don't know that. Because what happens is these parts of us that are saying, hey, I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to or I don't want to hurt this person. I don't want to be a bad person, and then suffer the psychological pain of realizing that I'm a bad person. And so we go, oh, fuck. Okay, I'll just ignore the whole thing. So not only is it dishonest, But that part of you that's terrified of a specific outcome has likely been terrified for a very long time and has likely been getting the same response from you over and over and over again, which is probably like, hey, get the fuck back in your cage because you're really weird and I don't have time to listen to your negativity or whatever it is you say. And I'm sure if you can put yourself in that situation, you can imagine that not really having the most positive impact on you. You can probably imagine it maybe making you feel worse. And over enough time of feeling crappy and having everybody be more mean to you, eventually you get bitter, and eventually you get mean, and eventually you get resentful, and eventually like turns into like kind of an unmanageable, terrible situation. And this is what we're literally doing to ourselves with the intention of being good. It sucks. It's a tragedy that this is what happens. That in our attempt to be good and do the right thing, we end up creating this inner conflict that can make things so much worse. But the interesting thing about, tragedy is it's also hilarious from a certain perspective. Like the fact that we're set up in a way to where the thing that'll make our lives better looks like the thing that'll make our lives worse, and the thing that'll make our lives worse looks like the thing that'll make our lives better is tragically and ironically hilarious. Because it's the world that we live in, and it's just so different than what we would normally think. Like, you wouldn't think that loving the part of yourself that wants to do shitty things is the best way to go, right? You'd think to be like, oh, I can't associate with that part of myself. I can't have anything to do with that. I got to get the fuck away from it as far as I possibly can. But it just simply doesn't work that way. If you embrace the thing and you listen to it and you go, oh, you were just scared. And this was your way of avoiding a potentially catastrophic situation that you thought was actually going to happen. Like, oh, fuck, you were just trying to take care of me. You were just trying to listen to me. Or you just wanted me to listen to you and actually take your concern seriously. But I didn't listen to you for so long that you became bitter and really kind of weird. And it's actually my fault. And that's the way our dark sides actually function. So if you can listen to them, they stop being your dark side and they just become advice that you never took. Like for me, anger was the thing that lived in my dark side. I never wanted to be angry. I wanted to be good. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be positive, and I wanted to be essentially accepted and loved. But I wanted to be all those things. And so my anger and my ability to stand up for myself and tell people to fuck themselves when they're just genuinely wrong, like all of that would go into my shadow, the stuff I'm not looking at. It would go into my blind spot, and I would shove it away, and it would get so tired of like other people treating me like shit and then me treating it like shit that it would eventually blow up and treat other people like really poorly. And so that sucked. And so for me, the last thing I ever thought that I wanted to do was like love that part of myself. But it fucking worked, because now I'm realizing that all it ever was an attempt for me to stand up for myself, for me to say, hey, that's not okay to treat me that way. Or, hey, I actually care about these things, and, this whatever is getting in the way of me doing the things that I care about. Like, when I look at the thing, it becomes easier to deal with. And it just, like I said, it becomes good advice that I didn't know how to listen to before. But when you exist in this world of polarity between, like, these thoughts are good and these thoughts are bad, then you end up aligning with the good ones and shoving away the bad ones. And then the bad ones, like I said before, go into the blind spot. And then once they go into the blind spot, then they do whatever they do when you don't have any say in it. And because you're shoving them there in the first place, they're probably not going to like you or the world too much, and so they're going to behave in ways that are probably out of alignment with your values, to say the least. So, is it okay to have a dark side? You don't have a fucking say in the matter. If you don't have a say in the matter, what do you have a say in? What you do have a say in is how you relate to the damn thing. If you relate to it as a potentially uncomfortable series of thoughts that have an underlying value that may, on the surface, may seem completely useless and terrible, but underneath have an essential kind of value, then you'll be able to find that value. And you'll be able to disregard all the other shit that doesn't work. Because when I get really mad at someone and my thoughts going like, oh, fuck this person, I want to rip their face off, can't fuck believe, I don't necessarily have to say all that stuff, Like, whatever it is I'm upset about them about, I'm likely upset that I didn't stand up for myself sooner or that I let them treat me poorly. And so generally it's just like, wow, I'm realizing that I'm really upset. And I'm realizing I'm upset because I have a boundary that I haven't been taking care of. Here's my boundary. Like, that's what the dark side in this specific instance or context is meant to do. That's what it's there for. It's supposed to show you that, like, wow, something's really pissing me off. Like, what is it? What am I not doing? Where's the hole in my boat that I need to plug up? And it shows up in a ton of different ways. So for you, like, whatever your dark side is, or if you're one of those people that think you don't have a dark side, pay attention to whether or not you ever have a conflict within yourself, or if you ever try to avoid doing the right thing. Like, if you think you don't have a dark side, but some part of you sometimes avoids doing the right thing, you may want to think again. And you may want to look into why you want to avoid doing the right thing. Because if you don't look at it now, it's going to grow and get worse and worse and worse, and it'll show up pretty clearly in ways that you may not like. So it's really better to take a proactive approach on these things. So I hope to God this was helpful. I feel like I just kind of rambled. But this is a good thing to think about. It's a good thing to know. You have a dark side. If you don't pay attention to it, it will grow out of control, and it will hurt you, and it will likely hurt those around you. And if you do own it, if you do pay attention to it, it could potentially be a source of mental health and wellness and balance and an ability to take advice that you would normally not take from yourself, and an ability to do things that you wouldn't normally do, whether it's stand up for yourself in my case, or maybe it's on the opposite side of the scale where you need to calm down a little bit and take other people into consideration. Whatever it is, like, your dark side is likely manifesting in something that just looks scary on the surface, but underneath is tremendously valuable and can make your life way better. The only thing is you just have to be willing to know that you do have a dark side, and it's not a personal failing on your part. You have a dark side because you're a human being that has free will and is capable of great good and great evil, and it's up to you to manage that. Now, that's a bit of a horrifying thing to understand, but once you're there, you have pure choice. You're like, wow, I'm going to choose to do good because it feels better. Not because I have a pathological avoidance of making other people uncomfortable. Like, that's not real good. Real good is saying, you know what, I could fucking ruin this shit if I wanted to, but I'm choosing to go the good route because I see that it's better for me, and I see that it's better for the world, and it'll create the kind of things that I want to create. And just long term, it's better for everybody. Like, that's real good. Real good is when you have a choice and you choose good. Pathological avoidance of quote-unquote bad is just a one-way ticket to hell, but way later on down the road when you never saw it coming. So I probably could have chopped this into 5 minutes, but either way, I love you. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you need anything, and I'll see you next time.